Citizenship, Unit 5. There are three types of legal residents of the United States. Aliens are foreign nationals who are legally residing in the United States. Nationals are people who were born in U.S. territories and have some of the same rights as U.S. citizens. And citizens are people who are experiencing all of the rights and responsibilities of people who belong to the United States. There are three pathways or common paths to citizenship in the United States, or three ways that one becomes a citizen. Most commonly is that people are born in the United States. Anybody who's born on U.S. soil automatically has U.S. citizenship. In other cases, people are born to one or both parents who are U.S. citizens, so that even if you're born outside the United States, if one of your parents is a citizen, then you can still be a citizen of the United States. And the third process is naturalization, where people who were not born into U.S. citizenship follow the process for becoming U.S. citizens. The qualifications for naturalization are that you must be 18 years old, a permanent resident of the United States for at least 5 years, be of good character, you must speak and understand English, pass the naturalization test, and take the oath of allegiance. The oath of allegiance is as follows. I hereby declare an oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. So to be a citizen of the United States, you have to give up your citizenship to any other country. Also, the oath says that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law, that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. So there's the oath of allegiance that people who are becoming naturalized citizens take. It's almost like being sworn in as a citizen. What are some of the rights and responsibilities of citizenship? The rights are frequently what we think of as being in the Bill of Rights, even though the rights are more expansive than that. We think about freedom of expression and worship, the right to bear arms, the right to privacy, including things like protection from illegal search and seizure, the right of due process, all of those things that happen if you're accused of a crime, but also included in that is the right to eminent domain, or the idea that no one can take your property away from you without compensating you for it and following some due process procedures. And then the idea of equal protection under the law, or that the law applies to everyone equally. There are also some commonly held responsibilities of citizens, including obeying the laws, serving on a jury in a court of law if you were called, respecting the rights of others and tolerating the differences of people who are in our society, and then voting and other means of participating in the government and the community. Finally, let's look at a citizenship timeline, because when the United States was first formed as a result of the Revolutionary War, not everybody had citizenship. In 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was written, you had to be a white male and you had to own property to be eligible to vote. By 1791, when the Bill of Rights was passed, all white males had the right to vote even if they didn't own property. In 1795, free white persons were granted citizenship as long as they had lived in the U.S. for at least 5 years. In 1848, 80,000 Mexican residents of the Southwest were granted citizenship after the Mexican-American War. Basically, what happened was the United States fought a war with Mexico over territory, and the people living in the conquered territory were granted U.S. citizenship. In 1857, in a landmark case that we've talked about previously, Dred Scott versus Sanford, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that African Americans who were brought into the country as slaves could not be citizens. In 1868, the 14th Amendment overruled Dred Scott and granted citizenship to African Americans. This is after the conclusion of the Civil War. And in 1870, the laws were changed to say that white persons and persons of African descent can be citizens, and the 15th Amendment granted African Americans the right to vote. In 1913, California and other states enacted an alien land law which prohibited non-citizens from owning land, and this was particularly targeting Asian immigrants in California. By 1920, the 19th Amendment allowed women to vote. In 1924, all Native Americans or American Indians were granted citizenship. In the 1940s, laws that restricted Asians from becoming citizens were overturned, and in 1947, Native Americans were given the right to vote. In 1965, as part of the Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King Jr. led a march to protest the lack of voting rights, and eventually the Voting Rights Act was passed, which helped to eliminate things like literacy tests and poll taxes as restrictions on voting. And then finally, in 1971, in the midst of the Vietnam War, the voting age was lowered from 21 to 18 by the 26th Amendment. Obviously, you can see from this timeline that the process of granting citizenship to people in the United States has happened over a long period of time. And while the Declaration said that all men were created equal, gaining those rights has, in some cases, taken a tremendous amount of time and effort. This is the end of our first video on citizenship. If you need to rewind or rewatch the video, please feel free to do so. Thanks for listening.